Hey, good evening. Welcome to
Hey,
this week's episode. I'm Jamie. That's Chad. That's Chad. Sorry, I'm maybe the wrong way. Chad, it's one of those two sides. But depends what screen you're looking at. Um, we are members of Jack Nick's Paranormal, and this is our podcast called Paranormal Lens. So, Chad, don't do that. I guess that's better for other people, though, right?
yeah,
We have to
apparently.
have our sides. Yeah. You know, who determines which side of the bed people sleep on? Like couples always have the same side, no matter what. Who decides
Actually,
that?
I did meet somebody who said that they don't have an assigned side. It's whoever gets in bed first, and they were comfortable with that. Can't remember who it
Oh,
was, but it was like,
wow.
wow.
All right. That's very progressive. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. I used to have the side closest to the door, because I was the safety, which
Uh-huh.
okay, sure. Um, but I don't know. It's just something happens in it, like that magic happens, and it just happens, and it's predetermined. Then the rest of your life, here's where you
hmm
are.
hmm
So, all right.
So,
Well,
but
don't rotate
anyway,
again. I'm getting
we
dizzy.
we we digress.
We definitely do. This is what we do best, right?
Uh,
So,
True.
hey,
So, but we
how
were
was
at
your week?
movies this weekend.
Yeah, how was your week? What happened? And I know part of it because I was there too.
I had a good week. And David's got an
There it
explanation
is.
here, but while we're reading that, I had a good week. Not a lot going on. We were busy at work. Worked a full day Saturday, and then I had the investigation. So we're both in this at the same time, I think.
I'm not. Just click it. Get it out
Okay,
of the way.
very good.
Ah,
Then we had an investigation Saturday night, and it was a lot of fun. It was good to be with the team again.
yeah, it was.
And now I'm always going to sleep on the other side of the bed, away
I
from the
have
door.
no. Yeah, I'm not even. I'm sleeping in the closet somewhere else. Yeah, great. That is true. Thanks, Heather, for that. I'm assuming that Bert sleeps next to the door, so that's why you have
So
dogs, right? In the first
this is
place,
true.
you have these loud, barky things that keep us safe no matter what.
Yep. So Heather's commenting on my week. Jamie, how was your week? Um,
Ooh, it busy as in a good way. And then Saturday was so much fun to get back, and it's been 2 full months, like
mhm.
right before Christmas, a week, 2 weeks before Christmas. To here we are at the end of April, or end of April, geez, end of February. So what's that? 10 weeks basically. It felt like forever, and it
Mhm.
was literally in the scale of what we usually do. Um, but it was so fun, and
It was.
good guests, great guests. Uh,
And we
the
had
team has
Bert and Heather were there on their anniversary, spending it with the team. I appreciated that. We had
absolutely.
we had a full house. I we had some. I don't think we talked about this, but we actually had the. I was up in the ballroom the first session,
Mhm.
and one of our guests heard somebody. It sounded like walking in bare feet right in front of them.
Ooh, like a padding sound.
Yeah,
The,
sort of like
the
how
padding,
your
pat, pat,
foot
pat,
sort of
pat, pat.
sticks to the wood floor a little bit. Yeah.
Yep.
So they heard that. We had some other good stuff going on. It was a fun night. It was a good investigation.
Okay.
So
I got to float around through the night, and I came across the last session that was in the bar, and then eventually the ballroom. I'm sorry,
mhm,
the Peacock Room. I
mhm.
can remember. Like I know this place. I should know these names. And Dave was leading. Well, became the lead in that group, and had some really interesting flashlight activity on two different ones in two different places. Plus, and I think you saw this, a one of the lights on the window went off and then came back
Right.
on itself as well,
Mhm.
which we've never seen before. And that obviously that could be wiring. I get
Right.
it, bad
Right.
bulb, something, but it was quite unique while it was in the session.
Right.
And I was in that room
Actually,
a lot actually
yeah.
that evening. Didn't see anything close to that happen prior to
Actually,
or ever before.
in that session, we had three flashlights at one time going
That's
off.
right. It was three.
So it was pretty interesting. There was a lot of activity in that room that session.
Yep.
Um, and it was the most activity I've had in the bar for a while. Like I usually don't get much in the bar at all, but we had some flashlight activity in the preacher's room,
Yep.
and yeah, so it was. I think the spirits missed us.
Yeah. And your son Alex got to join us, and he had an interesting Halo experience too. And speaking of that, in the bar in the preacher's room, he was touched during his session,
Right.
but asked, he was it was whatever was with us was asked to touch Alex, and actually he got touched. So that was quite fascinating. And he was a little off put by that, I know, but he took it well. So he's a trooper.
Yeah,
well, good to have him with us as well.
Yeah, he's going to come out with us to White Hill. He's on the list for that when we go again.
Good. So. Yeah, he was with us last time, so that was fun.
Cool.
So, all right, that's coming up. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff. But let's change gears for a second.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Okay.
Show of hands. Who here has ever gone camping before? Okay. Now, who here has ever gone camping like in the woods? All right. Now, I mean the woods, not the campground where the car's kind of parked over there and you can walk down the path and to the bathhouse and there's some lights there and some running water and maybe a game room or something, snack shack. I mean, out in the woods.
I was in Boy Scouts and we did Appalachian Trail stuff. So, yeah.
Good. So, as I do then, that there is a calmness out in the woods that can be oh so very relaxing, but also quite unsettling, especially when in the middle of the night, you get those strange noises going on somewhere around you, but you can't see what it is. So normally we rationalize these as animals or the wind or something like that, right?
Right.
What if it's something like a Wendigo? Here's a few examples of what I mean. It's the part where we play the video.
Oh, sorry.
People have always had an interest in the mysterious and the unknown. Among these mysteries have been the belief in creatures that look just under the public consciousness, possibly yet undiscovered. These creatures are often referred to as cryptids, as they fall under cryptozoology. There are some well-known cryptids such as the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, and the Chupacabra, just to name a few. One cryptid that is often discussed is the Wendigo. It's stalky, white, and humanoid in appearance, and with the great thing that is the internet, there have been plenty of videos claiming to have caught these creatures on tape. Today I would like to take a look at some of these pieces of footage. These are 5 Wendigos caught on camera. Number 5. Wendigo on property. Back in the fall of 2011, a man had been hearing some strange sounds coming from his property for a few months. Living miles away from the nearest town, he was used to the sounds of nature, but this was different. One night he decided to venture out and investigate the source of the noise with his camera.
Quite a bit. The heck is that? Oh my God!
When he posted this online, he said that he was convinced that he got footage of an alien, but the online community of cryptid enthusiasts claimed that this creature seems to fit the description of a Wendigo. What do you think he saw that night? Was it an alien, Wendigo, or something else? Number 4. Camping Wendigo. In 2009, a video surfaced showing some people camping in the woods. One of the campers seems to be recording his friend when something moves in the background, seemingly spying on the campers.
Well, you've been sharpening it for like 2 hours. You hear something?
The dog.
Okay.
Probably shy though.
Yeah, I gotta take pictures.
After the creature moves to the right, you can hear one of the campers say that he thought he heard a dog, though what the cameraman caught was certainly not that. Some people say that this is yet more footage of a Wendigo, while others say that this was just a hoax. What do you think? Number 3. Quebec Wendigo. I couldn't find much information on the next video aside from the fact that it was filmed in the woods outside of Quebec, Canada. The video shows yet another group of people camping near an abandoned house when someone shouts that they saw something spying on them.
La flashlight! Vite, donne la flashlight! Fuck, c'était quoi?
They go to investigate, and what they caught on camera is quick, but nonetheless pretty chilling.
What the He shows up. He shows up. Oh, shit. You.
As you can see, when he turns the corner, something seems to be peeking around before dashing away. They give chase, and as they turn to the left, whatever it was is gone. Number 2. Juvenile Wendigo. This next video surfaced in the fall of 2017. You can see a man filming himself riding his bike around the gardens of his town. However, he is almost brought down by some creature that almost collides with him. You can see that he is definitely startled, and when he turns around to see what almost hit him, it is gone. Some people say that this could just be an escaped monkey of some sort, while others say it could be a juvenile Wendigo. What do you think he almost hit? Number 1. Wendigo in the Woods. This video shows someone exploring what appears to be the roof of an abandoned building in the middle of the woods. He is taking in the view when something catches his eye. Zooming in, you can see a skinny gray creature stalking through the woods that certainly fits the description of a Wendigo. Also, the way it walks just sends chills down the spine. And there you have it. 5 Wendigos caught on tape. What did you think of these clips? Could they be proof that the Wendigo does indeed exist? Or could they just be something else?
So when I found this clip, I was fascinated by it because a couple things. One, obviously they're people doing what people do. They get their cameras out. We all have cameras in our pockets, and we video or film everything that we do anymore. That's the life we live. Looking at some of this, I think, okay, maybe not. The one with the bike, though, Chad did a screen capture right at the point where the thing jumps over the wall. And, I get the point that it might be a monkey, and that's probably a quick view of it. But looking at it from a still point, it is a lot more challenge for me to say that that's what it is. And obviously being out in the woods and, there's plenty of places that you can be that are far from things. Friends or not, abandoned buildings. This is what we talk about all the time as paranormal investigators. Don't go into these places because you don't know what you're going to find. And we're not thinking Wendigos. We're thinking safety, or other people, So that very well could have been the case with the house situation, but it was a bit of a creepy looking thing. So I have 2 more quick clips for you. Part of the lore, and I'll get into this in a minute when we really dig into this, but part of the lore of a Wendigo is that it has a pronounced sound about it. And we're going to get some examples of that in these next 2 quick clips.
Got something coming down, man. I got something screaming down there. I don't know what this is, man. Something screaming down there, man. Hello? Where are you? Show yourself right now!
And this one looks like it has a bite out of it. And this one. And there's one over here. Looks like it's holding some water. Huh? I think it's time to go.
I love how he reacts.
Rational, sane, normal in the world. Hear that? I'm out. Right? The rest of us, though, we're walking toward it.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to throw this up too, Jamie. I think I can. This is that screenshot I had yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. It's humanoid looking, and certainly it doesn't look monkey or apish to me, but I'm no primologist or even a biologist to say that. So I wanted to run this by our resident biologist, but unfortunately he's not available this week to get another opinion. So that'll come later, another week or so when we see him again. But it's interesting. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's got some good mobility that it can come off a wall and go back up another one. So that's quite fascinating too.
Yeah. Now
we have a better view. It's like everything else, right? There's never that great still shot of something. Nothing's ever going to pose for us. But
right,
you want something just a little bit better.
What I find interesting about that one is it's cornfields and things like that. Not where you would think of monkeys. Now, obviously, primates can be almost anywhere, but that's like the guy's riding through cornfields and in town. I've dealt with monkeys when I was in the jungle and stuff like that. And actually, when I was learning to scuba dive,
we're gonna have to talk about this. We really are. Another time.
When I was learning to scuba dive, we were on a beach called Monkey Beach. It was an inlet, and we were in the water doing our training. And the monkeys came while we were in the water and stole our lunch, and they took everything except the bananas. They left the bananas.
They're not falling for that stereotype.
So, but anyway, these aren't monkeys, I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but it's an interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the Wendigo. So the overview here is this, and there's a lot of detail here, so bear with me when I run through a few things. But it's a mythological cannibalistic creature from the Algonquin and Cree native folklore, believed to exist in a territory ranging from the eastern United States and Canada through the Midwest of both, usually associated with being seen during the winter months. So that was a bit unique for some of those clips because that certainly wasn't, what I would consider winter anyway. It might have been a fall or spring, either one, but it's certainly not winter. It has been described as a fearsome beast that stalks and eats men, being up to 15 feet tall, having an emaciated figure, having ashen or gray flesh, having sunken or glowing eyes, has sharp yellowed fangs and claws. Its lips are either chewed or missing, has an overly sharp and long tongue, can be either hairless or fur covered, has either pointed ears like a wolf or antlers like a deer, can be up to, smells of rotting flesh and can be detected by its horrible odor from a distance, has exceptional eyesight, hearing, and sense of smell, has a hissing breath, leaves bloody footprints, has a horrible scream that is often likened to that of a banshee, possesses superior strength and speed, often used to stalk and overpower its victims, prefers to roam the colder climates of the northern United States and Canada. One version has it being so thin that it can only be seen from the front. It is also known as a Witigo, Witico, and Wetigo. It's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of descriptions. That tells me more than one person has seen this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So while the native peoples have been passing stories of the Wendigo for generations, the first written mention of it came in 1613 in a report from Paul Lejeune, who was a French Jesuit missionary living among the Algonquin First People in what is now Quebec, Canada. Monsieur Lejeune tells of a woman who claimed a Wendigo had eaten some tribal members nearby, and that it would eat a great many more of them if Lejeune were not called elsewhere. Think about that for a second. So it sounds to me like she may have been telling Monsieur Lejeune that he was overextended his welcome with their tribe.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting perspective. Here's an outsider coming into the tribe. While not necessarily unwelcomed, there is an issue happening because there's been a change. One origin story has the first Wendigo being a result of a warrior making a deal with the devil to protect his tribe in a time of war. As you can probably guess, to save his tribe, he gives up his soul, the stuff like a devil went down to Georgia. We've seen this trade of something for something better. He becomes the nearly immortal Wendigo, who is able to protect his people better than he ever could as a mere mortal. So as you can imagine, the conflict ends and it comes to a peaceful resolution, and there was no longer a need for such a fearsome creature in the tribe. So they banish him into the woods to go and live as an outcast for the rest of his life. Hence why the Wendigo is in the woods. In Cree folklore, the Wendigo is an evil spirit that possesses humans. The Wendigo enters a human by either biting them or entering through a dream. And that's creepy, right? Like, you have nothing to do with it. You're just sound asleep. There we are. Right. The possession causes the person to become cannibalistic or deranged and violent. It is believed that a person who is greedy or gluttonous is more susceptible of being possessed by a Wendigo. Those who are suffering from severe hunger or starvation are also more susceptible. And think about what lengths you would go to if you were lost or left in the woods in the middle of winter as well. Obviously, you have to eat. And a colloquial phrase for this is that someone is or has gone Wendigo, kind of like going postal. A severe stressor and causes inaction. I'm going to say this wrong, Ojibwa, I believe, Ojibwa, tribal folklore claims that if a person becomes possessed by a Wendigo, then it will hunt down the ones the person loved and feast upon their flesh. So if you know somebody who becomes a Wendigo, they're in your family, you're in trouble. So additional tales of the Wendigo come in print, film, and media. There's been a lot through the years. Some interesting highlights here, though. In The Wilderness Hunter, Theodore Roosevelt, wrote a story of a bear-like beast that stalked two hunters. It killed one and released the other to tell the tale of what had happened. Now, and in fairness, this sounds like more like Bigfoot, right? Bear-like creature, right? Whatever, but it's out there. In 1910, Algernon Blackwood wrote a horror novella called Wendigo about a monster that stalks hunters at a northern woods campsite. Well, not a true horror story. It is a suspenseful and easy read, and Amazon has it for $9. I got myself a copy. 102 pages, an afternoon, easy, fun, quite an interesting book. So I recommend it.
While you're paused, Dave said there's a Marvel comic character with the same name.
I'm getting there, Dave. I'm getting there. So ironically, in comic books, both the Incredible Hulk and the Wolverine feature a run-in with Wendigo, and there's more than that. A relatively awful redo of the Lone Ranger film from 2013 features a Wendigo, but it really doesn't make much sense, like most of the film, why a Wendigo had been cast in it, because it's based in the Southwest of the United States, so not anywhere near northern woods, any climate. It's just
continuity's all wrong.
They're just throwing stuff in a pot and hoping something boils up. There is a super creepy video game called Until Dawn that features a Wendigo. Really fun if you like the Resident Evil series. That's one to check out as well. I remember playing many years ago. And in 2021, the film Antlers is about a Wendigo that's more of a deer-like creature, and it has a glowing heart. It's a pretty good movie. It's currently available on demand. So, okay, so the Wendigo, is a cannibalistic creature. So there are instances of murder or cannibalism anywhere where always blamed that someone went Wendigo. So here's a few examples of that. In 1879, a Cree named Swift Runner claimed a Wendigo entered his dreams and told him to eat his entire family, which he did. He was tried for murder, found guilty, and hung for his crimes. The man was married and had 6 children. In fairness, should be noted that this was a situation where his tribe was starving. It was the midst of winter, and his oldest son had already passed away before the episode when he killed the rest of his family. So I can only imagine the stressors that he was under, and felt that was the thing to do. In 1907, among the Sandy Lake First Nation, a tribal medicine man or shaman named Jack Fiddler and his brother Joseph were charged with the murder of Joseph's wife, whom they strangled to prevent from becoming a Wendigo. Both were arrested, but Jack escaped and was later found hanged by an apparent suicide. Joseph was sentenced for the murder, He was later pardoned, but died of tuberculosis 3 days prior to being released from jail. At the time of the murder, Jack Fiddler was 87 years old, and he claimed to have, in his lifetime, had killed at least 14 Wendigo. The primary defense of the crime was that Joseph's wife must be killed before she turned into the Wendigo, thus putting the entire village in danger. So again, they're doing this one thing to prevent everyone else becoming either a Wendigo or being eaten or absorbed.
Right.
Also from this era, the Hudson Bay Trading Company, which had extensive relations with the Canadian First People Nation, has several documented instances of people turning Wendigo and eating flesh. So it's documented in their histories and annals. Between 1800 and 1920, the Wendigo allegedly made a semi-regular appearance in a northern Minnesota town called Rosusu. And curiously, there was an unexpected death after each reported sighting. Something that just healthy, normal person just passed out and then passed away. Here's where it gets close to home. So locally here in South Central PA, there was a story from a really cool organization called Uncharted Lancaster that documents and shares stories for our unique local history and, of course, paranormal things. They have shared a tale about an area just south of where we are now, Chad, called Shanks Ferry. And I'm sure you've been there. I've been there. It's a great nature preserve. There's a lot of hiking trails. It's a beautiful place to go in spring, summer, fall. There's a tunnel, you recall, leading into the nature preserve. Okay, stone cut tunnel right through a hillside. The tunnel has its own unique history that includes a mysterious ghostly woman in white, but I'll save that for another episode because I think there's some good stuff there. But the tunnel is where the following uncredited story comes from. And this is a quote from the site. When I was a student at Millersville University, I liked to explore the surrounding area. One night, my roommate and I decided to go to Shanks Ferry. We were sitting in the middle of the tunnel with the lights off, having done everything you're supposed to do there. 10 minutes or so passed when suddenly on one side of the tunnel, I saw a black figure crawl onto the light. This thing looked like Gollum, but with longer arms and legs. When it got to the middle of the tunnel, it turned its head and looked directly at the car. Then it crawled very quickly to the other side of the tunnel. Go, I yelled. I barely got the word out of my mouth before my roommate started his car driving as fast as possible out of there. We both clearly saw something. No one said anything until we were back on the main road. Then my roommate said, "Did you ever see The Lord of the Rings?" And that's when he began to describe the same thing I saw. I'm usually skeptical of this kind of stuff, thinking the mind plays tricks on you, but knowing we both saw the same thing makes me believe. End quote. Adding to the mystery of this story, there are Native American petroglyphs about a mile south of this tunnel, right along the Susquehanna River, that show a tall humanoid figure with unnaturally long arms and what appears to be either antlers or horns. Sounds like a Wendigo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, be wary where we wander in the woods here, too. So, in the early 20th century, the term Wendigo psychosis was coined to describe a culture-bound syndrome among Native Americans and First Nation people whose symptoms included delusions of becoming possessed by an evil spirit, cannibalism, violence, a compulsion for human flesh. And this is kind of what happened to Swift Runner in the story. Interestingly, the frequency of Wendigo psychosis has reduced drastically as we move through the 20th and 21st centuries, likely due to the increasing contact with and absorption of Western ideologies into the Native people's cultures. So, as it was, this is a Native American folklore originally, or in the First Nation people's folklore. But as we were introducing different ideologies, some of the old stuff sliding away. Plus, what's important to note that it really is a lot of oral history. There's not a lot of documentation. So the stories are just getting diluted as we go further and further into time, which is unfortunately a tragedy that we're losing some of this great history. And not just for the Wendigo, but for so many other things. So we have a Wendigo. Now what do we do with it, right? So here's how you kill or subdue one. First of all, it's noted that this is not an easy thing to do. It is believed that only a medicine man or a shaman may do so or can do so. And there is the need for a silver bullet or a steel or iron bullet or a dagger. So you have to have a weapon. You can't just go beat him over the head. He's not gonna affect him. So there's a tale of a young Indian boy being abducted by a Wendigo, but the boy was too thin to be eaten at the time. The Wendigo keeps the boy and tries to fatten him up while looking for more victims. Due to the constant traveling, the boy does not gain any weight, and the Wendigo becomes frustrated to the point of giving the boy to a tribe in the expectation that he will gain weight and eventually become his meal. The boy tells the tribal chief what has happened, and that when the Wendigo returns, they all will be eaten. The tribal council decides to send their mightiest warriors to hunt the Wendigo. They find it sleeping and proceed to capture it. To ensure it cannot escape them and follow them back to their tribe, they tie it up and cut off its legs and leave. When they return, they find the Wendigo sucking the marrow from the stumps of its legs, and it says it wants more. When asked if it will continue to hunt and eat their people, the Wendigo says it will. Knowing that it will never stop, the warriors proceed to dice it to pieces so it cannot harm another. Now, noted here that the legend also says the Wendigo's heart must be cut out and burned in a fire to truly vanquish its spirit. Given that they only cut the Wendigo to pieces, they have to think that there's a potential that's still out there.
Mm-hmm.
So what can this really be? And this is where we kind of get you have to look at it objectively. So since the Wendigo has existed in the culture and oral history of Native American and First Nation people for centuries, it likely began as a cautionary tale of what will happen to a person if they fell victim to greed, selfishness, and even self-isolation. Also, a Wendigo is considered the personification of winter in many Native cultures in times when pulling together to share resources would be critical to surviving harsh winter weather. Lastly, the fear of being eaten or possessed by a Wendigo could be something that we use to scare children from going off in the woods by themselves or misbehaving.
Right. There seems to be a lot of that in folklore.
There really is, right? And there's a whole lot of fables like that too, Mm-hmm. So, yeah, kids are unruly everywhere. So we know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it should be noted that early European explorers and settlers often took the stories of the Wendigo quite seriously. Could this be a way that Native peoples, kept the colonists out of their lands, give them this really scary story and say, this is going to happen to you if you go out there? Maybe. Right? I'm sure by the time that colonists got to northern Canada, the northern tier of the U.S., there was already some word that they were coming, being shared through the network. So, anything to do to keep that assimilation from happening and overrun happening. Interestingly, the story of why Jack Fiddler killed over 14 Wendigo at least partially involves several Wendigos being sent by shaman from other tribes. So, he had a beef with somebody, so they sent a Wendigo after him. It's crazy, but man, maybe. Yeah. I find the possibility of weaponizing a Wendigo to be quite intriguing. I've heard of biological weapons, but never paranormal ones. So maybe.
Yeah, that's a whole different. Yeah, there's a whole conversation there.
A whole other thing. For hundreds of years, there have been so many sightings, many with such specific descriptions, like all the descriptions I provided at the beginning, for this to be an isolated episode. While significantly less, there are still Wendigo sightings reported today. It should be noted there is a cave near the town of Kenora in northern Ontario, Canada, that has a significantly higher number of reported sightings than anywhere else. The cave has wall art depicting a very large, dark creature who loosely fits the description of a Wendigo, much like the rock art at Shanks Ferry does as well. Interestingly, too, the cave is not on maps and it is not marked in the local area, so finding it is quite difficult. Yes, Dave, exactly. So, in conclusion, I think it's safe to say that we should note that many, if not all, Native people's Wendigo stories involve very low food supplies and overwhelming winter weather conditions that make traveling for additional resources difficult to impossible. It's dire where this happens. As I shared earlier, tales of the Wendigo should be cautionary yarns meant to scare people into working together when resources were at their lowest, instead of letting others struggle and starve. That is part of the Native people's belief that we share with everyone. And but greed and gluttony and self-preservation does always creep in. So it's that tale to say, hey, well, look, we got to share. Also, if you're facing impending starvation, it seems quite plausible that people would turn to cannibalism to survive or rationalize their actions by claiming that a Wendigo was involved and also made them do it. think the Donner Party, right?
Mhm.
We all know the story. They were trapped in a mountain pass and, doomed to die without sacrificing each other. And I always think of, when I think of the Donner Party, I think of a really good film from 1993 called Alive. It's a story of a Uruguayan rugby team's plane that crashed in the Andes. And for many weeks, it took them to find a few rescued survivors, but they lived because as they died, they would use them as food. Of course, then it takes you to Sullivan Green, but that's a whole other thing. Good movie. I really recommend you see that one. So anyway, the Wendigo psychosis also seems like a likely rationale. Much like the concept of someone going postal due to extreme stress, the same can be said for those experiencing starvation and facing their own impending death from it. And going back to, I don't know how many episodes this was, Chad, but we did an Alaskan Triangle episode, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, I was talking about how people go out to the woods every year and don't come back, right? The same is true in the northern tier of Canada as well. And not quite as harsh a climate or a topography as far as the mountains that Alaska provides. But still thousands of people go into the woods and don't come home. And, normal thoughts would be animal attacks or exposure, the stuff that we normally rationalize it to. And I know when we talked about the Alaskan Triangle, the Kushtaka was the paranormal creature, stalking the woods there and drawing people in and drowning them, if you remember, in the rivers and creeks. But what if the Wendigo is doing it too? It's still a northern tier. It's still a cold weather area. Maybe. So, to really wrap this up and put a pretty bow on it, the Wendigo is a fascinating thing for me, and it scares me. It really does. I spent a lot of time out in the woods, and we did the episode on Champ. I've spent a lot of time in Vermont, up in the woods there. We normally rent a house somewhere, within reason of civilization. But I recall vividly a time that we had a house that was really nowhere near anybody. And there was a road that went through, and that's where I take the dog out, in the middle of the night kind of thing. Well, middle of 9 o'clock, let's be honest. But it's pitch black out there, no lights. And I just always had this creepy feeling that something was nearby, and many times the dog would stop and just stare at a spot, and with flashlight even, you can only go so far and penetrate in the trees, and, you just don't know what's really there, and a couple of times, sure, it was some deer, and a couple other times it was, ground animals like foxes or squirrels or something, but other times, I don't know. Could it all be in my head? Absolutely. I'm never going to deny that. Sure. Your imagination gets the best of you. But given the location is within the territory that a Wendigo could exist and be, could also be that. So I don't know. That's my story. And I do want to give a shout out to Uncharted Lancaster. Those guys, unchartedlancaster.com, really have a great website. And if you're anywhere near South Central PA or just like cool stuff, I really recommend checking them out. They have some really great content that goes pretty deep.
And they do some treasure hunts, some things like that.
Contests, right? You can actually come down and do a treasure hunt and get a prize. I think it's a gold falcon this year.
Okay.
Kind of like a geocaching, I would say hunt, but that's not the right word for it. But an adventure. You follow clues, and first one to it wins. And they've done some things like in Washington Borough and down along the river where they had like a cache of a thing out there. And you follow the trail and you follow the clues, you find this cache, and then you get a prize, like a ribbon.
And you can't cheat. You have to complete one task before you can move to the next. It's definitely
it's planned. It's well planned. Well done, actually. Really well done. So they haven't figured out. So, well, Ted, what do you think? I've talked a lot, right?
I don't know. This is an interesting one. The fact that it comes out, the fact that you've got so many descriptive sightings leans towards there's something there. The fact that it comes out when it seems like it's a harsh winter and everybody's struggling. I mean, if everybody's struggling, then you're more likely to see something else searching for the same food source you have. So, or you become the food source for it. So there's that. I don't know. The Shanks Ferry one's interesting to me. I've seen some strange things down there too. Not quite that far south, but one night when I was in college and we weren't drinking or anything, there were just 3 or 4 of us out on a car ride. We saw a weird thing happen, and it was like, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't at Shanks Ferry, but we saw a woman in white that sort of just disappeared, and turned around, and it was like there was also another car looking for it. So it was just this weird thing.
I believe you. I totally do. And there's in that area, there's a lot of settlements, old settlements of original folks who lived along the river, and some of the canal workers and such. That there's so much opportunity there, and people went to work some days and didn't come home. So
Right.
there was the grieving widow, who waited up and waited and waited and waited, and news didn't travel fast, so the heartbreak just kept going.
Well, Shanks Ferry, you had the whole dynamite factory.
Right. Yes, that's true. A lot of people died there because of that.
14 people.
Yep. Very good point. So,
Yeah, so
it's so cool. We have such great stuff right in our backyard. It's amazing.
yeah. That's that anniversary of that is in June. So maybe we have an episode that we need to do there.
Well, there we go. I like it.
So yeah, like you said, there's a lot in our own backyard. There's
There
a lot
is.
going on. In this one, the glyphs that are down by the river are interesting. I've seen pictures of them. I wouldn't discredit that they are something along these lines. So,
I tried to screen grab, and unfortunately, they have some protections on them, so we just can't steal their stuff, which I like a lot, actually. Hence, I'd say go check out the website. And there is just the direct story is just rolled down a little bit. Is there?
Jamie, I got to teach you some things though.
Probably, yeah. I'm old, and what is this thing after all? It's always on my desk. It's like a paperweight. Yeah. Thank you. I'll take that training anytime, actually. I certainly could use it. But, all in all, when you look at this, with the spread of history and, there's hundreds of years worth of tales. It goes beyond, settlers coming, colonials coming to the Americas, going back and back and back. It makes you wonder. And, I think it's interesting too. We've done a lot of things that are related to folklore, in some of these episodes, and those that tie to Native peoples, are always really, really old because they were here, obviously, but they're,
Right.
They're rationalizing the environments, and a lot of the stories are explanation tales versus, like trying to be a paranormal thing. They're just trying to explain things that are happening. And some of the stuff is just so bizarre in good ways that it intrigues us, like this. As I'm looking at these 2 pictures now, the one on the right looks a lot like the first clip in that video, the first 5 clips, that looks like what popped its head up, some, Lord of the Rings Gollum looking thing, with sunken eyes, and obviously that could be it. And same thing with the one that walked across the back of the screen. Now, I'm taking those with a grain of salt. They're fun to watch. They're good, like moments.
Right.
Whether they're real or not, I don't know. And I'm not I'm not guaranteeing you that. I didn't shoot them. I'm sharing them.
Right.
So, if it was real, we got some explaining to do, right? Like, what the heck? Any smart person, just like the dude in the last one with the mushrooms, you're like, oh, time to go. If I saw that and I know I saw it, I'd be out to. I think that's the only thing that's safe.
The dude with the mushrooms didn't move fast enough. It's the only thing I have to say. Like, he was
Well,
like,
maybe that bite out of the mushroom was him.
He's like, I think it's time to go. It's just like
a little calm.
uh-huh. Yeah, I was trying to find the picture from the Uncharted website just to share, but
Okay.
I can't find it right this second. But oh wait, here we go. And actually, they shared some of the same pictures you did, but let's see if I can pull that up here.
There we go.
Just the one you were thinking about?
Yeah, there at the bottom left.
So yeah, definitely worth checking out their site. They have a Facebook page, they have a web page.
A lot of great content. And the tunnel is the upper left one as well. There's a better outside view of the tunnel. It's it's man-made, so it's not like a loose tunnel, but it's definitely rock faced and pre-cut, preformed. But and it's a road because it drives you into the nature preserve, which if you're into nature, it's a really nice place. Because
I don't recommend going there in a low car.
Yeah, it's true. You might need help out.
Yeah, my car's bottomed out several times going in and out of there.
All the ruts and stuff. Yeah.
So
it's a primitive road, but it's a pretty cool place.
Yeah.
All right,
anybody have thoughts from the audience?
Did I put everybody to sleep? Probably.
So, well.
Okay. So what's coming up?
What's coming up? Let's see. Here we go.
Hey.
Public investigations galore. We've got a bunch coming up. Boobies is again the end of March. We're back to that one a month right now. We'll have 2 in June, but right now it's 1 a month. I think there's 14 tickets left on the website for the 30th. So we are getting down there. Definitely would like to see that full house like we had the other night. It gives us a good energy.
Absolutely.
Then we have and that's actually Easter weekend, so maybe we'll get some celebrations from the Booby family. Who knows? They were a very religious family, so maybe they'll be celebrating. Then we've got April 13th, May 11th. I know you're looking forward to this one. We're at Red Mill Museum.
Yep.
We're gonna be there with our friends Daryl Marston and Ron and Lourdes. That'll be a fun evening. Then May, we've got another public, and June we have 2 publics. So that's what's coming up. Looking at Bert's comment here.
Yeah. Well, it's true, right? The picture's 1,000 words point it always comes to mind, but everything's always so grainy and blurry and maybe. I just want somebody to stop and take a selfie for us,
One of these days, they'll understand that that's what we need.
That's right. So if I can figure out how to do it, anybody can. That's the point. We keep having these experiences and no one's really ever prepared, right? You're out doing something, all of a sudden something happens. I keep my phone in my pocket. I can never get it out fast enough. The moment's passed. But if it's out there, someone will find it someday. I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The world keeps getting smaller and smaller.
Yep. So, let's see. Upcoming on our show next week, I'm happy to announce. I've been talking to him today. We're definitely going to have Tony Rathman, maybe his wife Cherie. We're not sure yet. But Tony will definitely be here talking about Phelps Dodge Mining Hospital and Staticom 2. So, Tony's an interesting guy, Jamie. He used to develop spirit boxes before he teamed up with Ron and Lourdes. he invented spirit boxes, but now that he's gotten into Staticom, he has completely moved away from that. He just thinks that this is a better way to go. He's got a couple that he's got patents on or developed. He's got like 14 years of paranormal investigative experience, locations all across the country, in the Philippines, Japan. So I'm sure he's got some great stories. So I can't wait to talk to him.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this too. That's really cool.
And I was taking a peek at some of the clips that he sent me for next week. You're in for a treat.
Okay.
So
don't say another word. I'm waiting for it. I'll wait for it. It's good.
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome.
So other than that,
started building the Fort Mifflin episode today, actually. So there's quite a lot of history there, much less the paranormal stuff. So it's going to be a fun one too.
Mm-hmm.
And another semi-local place that's that we ought to get to. So
we do,
we definitely do.
So, and then here's our socials again. Follow us on the TikTok, Jamie. My kids would kill me, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. They'd laugh first when eye rolls. Sorry, they don't laugh anymore. Eye rolls. They're teenagers.
Yeah.
TikTok.
But
glad you said that, not me.
Well, one of us had to.
Yeah, it's true.
So.
So I get nothing. Don't say something about that. It's a bit like go.
Yeah. So I'm exhausted if you can't tell.
Yeah, it's been a week already. It's only Tuesday. So we will do better next time, I promise. Because it's on Chad to do it.
Well, and we've got a guest, so we let them talk through it. But, well,
after lunch, plan to stay late. This could go a while. So, actually, I hope it does. I really do.
Yeah,
that's so much great stuff.
So, well, Jamie, I want to thank you for doing a good job as usual. A lot of information, a lot of things to think about, ponder. I want to thank all our guests who are watching now, and anybody who's going to watch the recording later. We appreciate you doing that. Supporting us. Reach out, send us an email if you've got ideas. Facebook page, any of those things. We'd love to hear from you.
Love to hear what you want us to do next. So we have a list, but we can always squeeze it in and change things around. So
yeah, Jamie, I was looking at the list. Fort Mifflin's the last one you got on there.
It's not it's only the only one on paper. Okay, I got you.
Okay, your list isn't you're up here.
It's up here. Yeah, it's in the vault. It's in the vault.
Okay. Yeah. So
I'll get to it tomorrow. Thanks for reminding me.
That's okay. Yeah. So anyway, we should probably get out of here, let people get on with what they got to do, because I know I've got a dog to walk and things like that tonight. So
some lunches to pack and someone to shush off to bed. So the youngins.
Oh, I'm hoping you're talking about the dog.
Something like that. Yeah.
So all right. Well,
thanks everybody. Thanks as always.
We'll see you next week.
Be well.
Good night.